everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe, narrated by Disney, or Lucasfilm, whichever way you slice it, Legends. So I'm officially getting done with everything that's before Episode 4. As we continue forward, it's going to get muddled with it being during, or literally seconds before, or after, so it's going to be kind of muddled. I'm not going to talk about any of the novelizations to the original trilogy, with the exception of maybe episode 6, only because Noah, Quality Autism, who you should go subscribe to, claims that it's really good. But up next, I will be talking about some comics and Tales from Mos Eisley, because I think it'd be better, especially if you've already seen Star Wars, the movie, now redubbed A New Hope. If you've seen the movie enough times, I think it would do benefit to read that book first, because then it gives you a whole new perspective when you go and watch that cantina scene, because then you have all these short stories in mind going forward. So that's what I will be talking about next, plus some comics focused on Biggs Darklighter, because those take place around the time of the movie, pretty much. But today, I'm here to talk about Interlude at Darknell, which was a 4-part short story series that was in the Star Wars Adventure Journal #1. This was also later recollected completely in the Tales from the New Republic novel, which is just a collection of short stories. Though it's a bit weird that it's in a book titled Tales from the New Republic when it's clearly a Rebellion-era story. But whatever. It is written by 2 people. The first and last story, or the first and last parts of it, are written by Timothy Zahn, and the first and the middle portions of it are written by Micheal Stackpole. So this was a Timothy Zahn, Micheal Stackpole collaboration, and as you know, or as you should know, Micheal Stackpole and Timothy Zahn were the kingpins of early Bantam. I have my issues with Timothy Zahn. I think I've been quite clear about that, but the man can write when he wants to write good, because I would argue allegiance and choices of one are not, but we shall see what I think about that when we get to that a second time. But credit where credit is due. Timothy Zahn and Micheal Stackpole worked together on this, and it is a glorious it's basically the size of a young adult novel, for the simple fact that it takes place over 4 parts. We follow a couple sets of people throughout this story. We follow Garmbel Abyss, who we, if we're going chronologically, first saw in The Force Unleashed. Now, I'm not going to get too much into it, but Quality Autism, another YouTube channel, he's a cool guy. Don't always agree with him. I disagree with him a lot, but he is a cool guy, and I do appreciate his friendship. But he claims that there's a contradiction between the Force Unleashed video game and this short story, because Garmbel Abyss is on the Death Star with the other rebels when the Rebel Alliance gets started, which he is already a part of the Rebel Alliance in this short story, but they're trying to find stuff out about the Death Star, but he should already know about the Death Star if he's been there. Maybe a slight contradiction. I'm not exactly sure. I would have to go read the story and look at the cutscenes with him in it, shot for shot for shot, or the novel bits to have him. Worst comes to worst, it would be a TCW situation where I don't like to headcanon. I don't headcanon stories. I like the Hand of Thrawn 45 fanfictions, but those aren't really a part of the canon. Though I could accept them because they're not inherently contradictory. But I would never say, oh, they actually are part of the Star Wars universe, or should be. They're good, and I recommend people read them, especially since I doubt that Disney will ever give us new stories. But they will never be officially anything, right? Or Disney canons. Even if I found a story I liked in Disney canon, I wouldn't include it in the Legends timeline, because it's not a part of Legends timeline. Lucasfilm never said it was, so I'm not going to do that. But with stuff like TCW, where I'm trying to include it because Lucasfilm claimed that it was a part of the entire continuity, but then you have all these problems, then you kind of have to headcanon a fix because of that. But that's mostly a Dave Filoni issue with, possible with the Force Unleashed game. But the difference with the Force Unleashed game is there was respect there, and there might have been a legitimate error made in terms of continuity, because there's millions of stories. Maybe they just forgot about this 4-part mini series, the short story, and they just didn't think about it. Whereas Dave Filoni not only accidentally did it, he just blatantly did it because he didn't care. I mean, he probably didn't read a good portion of it, but that's not the point. The point is he would just do whatever he felt like, for the most part. But I'm not here to talk about him. Meanwhile, we're following Garm Belvis. I won't get into it non-spoiler wise what goes on with Garm, but stuff happens with him. We also follow, because of course Micheal Stackpole, we follow Hal Horn, which is Corran, oh my goodness, Corran father, okay? And Corran, if you don't know, if you haven't been watching my reviews, don't know anything about the EU, he's one of the most, he's the main character of the Rogue Squadron novel. And then he'll go on to become a Jedi, join the new Jedi Order of Luke's Jedi Order, and he has a lasting legacy throughout all post-Episode 6 stuff. But his story truly begins after Episode 6. But it's amazing to have his father have a story in here. And because it's Stackpole, we also have Zahn, the main bad guy from the X-Wing novels. So it's really cool to see her here, and she is doing stuff. Non-spoiler wise, there's also this woman that has information that she stole, and that's why Hal Horn's trying to find her. That's why, Garmbel is thought to be dead. He's kind of like in hiding, and he ends up meeting up with the girl that Hal's after and that Zahn's after. So 3 separate kind of stories that kind of converge into one. But it was absolutely fantastic. This is one of my favorite short stories I think I've read so far. It was so much fun to see Hal Horn. And I'll say this, for spoiler wise, without it being a huge spoiler, Hal, I mean, we know this because Corran obviously is a Jedi, but Hal also has the Force, and he knows he has the Force. He even uses it within this story. Now, he's not a Jedi or anything, but he knows that he can influence people, because we will see that if you read it, you see it in the story. And I thought that was really freaking cool, because I believe the grandfather was a Jedi. I'm not 100% on that, but I'm pretty sure that's like the lore. There's the grandfather, son, and then Corran. I'm not sure though. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, I absolutely enjoyed this 4-part series, and the epilogue, without spoilers, just helps reinforce why I think that Zahn Azard is one of the best villains in the Star Wars universe. And she's a woman. So for all those who are like, there was no woman before Disney, and equality never existed until 2022, I would not want to go up against Izard. She's competent. She's powerful. Maybe not in terms of strength, but in terms of mind power. She's a force to be reckoned with. And I would not want to be her enemy, despite the fact that it'd probably have to be, because she's very devoted to the Empire. But that epilogue is absolutely wonderful. Those who have read it know exactly what I'm talking about. Moving forward, we have Star Wars Insider 131, Maze Run. It's a very short little story. You could kind of put this maybe after Shadow Games, but before Episode 4, or maybe before Shadow Games, like right before Shadow Games. I'm not sure. But basically, Han and Chewie go on this quick little mission, only to find out that the package that they're delivering may need to be taken off their ship, because boom. It's very short, very fun, nothing much to it, but there it would be. We also have, from Adventure Journal number 1, Breaking Free, The Adventures of Danon Lifehold. It's okay. I don't have much to say about it. This guy meets this alien species thing that's good at repairing stuff. He owes money to this person. I don't know. I didn't hate it. It's written okay. I just didn't care. I don't know. Um, it's there if you want it. Definitely skippable though. Also, again, if you're insane, you don't have to do this. In the Shadows of the Empire source book, there's a little paragraph called um, Sparrow's Flight, and this dude does something. And Leia's like, "What the fridge, dude?" It's literally a paragraph, so I'm not going to get further into it, but it'd be placed around here. Then we get to Star Wars Empire Comics issues 5 to 6. Now these are Leia centric. Now the covers are kind of misleading. It makes it seem like she's gonna be a really cool action girl, and I was kind of hoping for that. It's not exactly what we get, but I guess that also makes sense for her character that she wouldn't be. She's a diplomat. She is a politician. First and foremost, before any of that Jedi stuff comes in down the line, she is a politician. And she's all about trying to do these peaceful things. But within these 2 issues, she has to go on the defensive. She has to decide to lead. The one moment that stood out to me is when a friend dies. Without spoilers. I mean, I guess it is a spoiler, but it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. I mean, it matters for her development. But this is where she's like, this is where I have to take an active step. And now that I've made that active step, I'm going to be an enemy of the Empire. But there's this one panel where she says, open fire. Because this whole time she's like, we can find a peaceful solution. She's trying to be like Bail. We'll find a peaceful solution. We'll find a peaceful solution. But she has to order her men to fire. And it's this whole thing about like, she doesn't want to start battles because then people are going to die on both sides. But sometimes you got to do it. It's an okay 2 issues thing. It's nothing incredible, but I do enjoy that we got 2 comic book issues that focus solely on Leia, because Leia's really cool and she deserves some more of that development. But it's pretty decent, and it would be placed around here because it takes place approximately 3 weeks to a single week before the events of Episode 4. So we are quickly ramping up to that event. X-Wing Rogue Squadron comic, 1.5. Yeah, 1.5. This is just a 1-issue comic written by Micheal Stackpole. It focuses, we have Biggs, Darklighter, we have, of course, Wedge Antilles, and Porky or something, I forget, and this Twi'lek dude. And basically, it just shows by the end of the comic, as is the case with a lot of Rogue Squadron, because it's very much like real war in that sense. I mean, more in the novels than the comic, but they lose a member of Rogue Squadron. Rogue Squadron is basically just forming right now. Like, they haven't been an active part of the war. Rogue Squadron moving forward for the next 3 years of the Rebellion era, and other not TIE fighters, other X-Wings shall start becoming more prevalent of a force in the military. But they lose a member of their squad. And by the end of the series, or at the end of the issue, the last panel is near the end of the Episode 4. I mean, most of this story, I think, takes place before the events of Episode 4, but the final page of this comic takes place at the very end of Episode 4, where it's like, oh, well, you're down a man, so here's a new person. He says he's good at piloting. Hopefully he can help you. And of course, that's Luke Skywalker, which implies that all the events in the movie up into the Yavin portions happened. So, but I'm going to place it here because it seems like most of the stories before the actual movie takes place. But it's a pretty decent little comic, and if you are interested, would it be the first thing to read in the X-Wing Rogue Squadron series? No. But if you are a fan of Rogue Squadron, if you're a fan of Wedge Antilles, it's a decent thing to pick up. After this, we have Star Wars Empire, issues 10 to 11. Here, General Dodonna is talking about how he met this guy we never met in the movies, but he inspired hope in his troops, in his men, in his people. And it shows like this guy's entire life from when he's a little kid getting bullied to being this inspiring war hero. And Dodonna talks about him and what he's done. And the art's really good. The story's pretty decent. And clearly they haven't blown up the Death Star yet, so it's got to be like a little bit before episode 4. So that's pretty much it, guys. I didn't have too much to talk about, but I did really overall enjoy everything I talked about here. And we've been ramping up so quickly. We've finally about reached the original film, which has been exciting. I've been doing this for 2 years. I mean, I wanted to get a better sequel trilogy than the one I felt I was given. And so I got into the EU and I read all the post episode 6 stuff. And I think that helps because now I already know Rogue Squadron and Cornhorn and all that. And Zahn and Izard. So, like, I know those names, so I get excited when I see them. But going in chronological order from the very earliest placement in the timeline, after all this time, it's been about a year, I finally reached episode 4, or about. And that's kind of crazy. We've been on quite the journey, and we still have a lot more to go. So I hope you all join me as we continue forward. Not in the next video, but after that, we reach the Rebellion era, which is the second most mind-exploding era next to the Clone Wars, because Han, Leia, and Luke, they don't have a moment to go to the bathroom. So much stuff happens within those 3 years. So I hope you're ready for that confusing mess. And until then, guys, may the Force be with you.